So what we're doing out here today, guys, is we're just dropping trees right now, making a bedding area out through a travel corridor we just made to a food plot. We got Chris here, we got a habitat hook, and we're jamming. Right now, we just, like I said, we just dropped some mature trees, pine trees, and just dropping them either way. We have a nice trail. It goes right through here. They can zigzag out through that way to another bedding area where Chris shot a couple does up there last year. This kind of leads up to that direction, and we're just dropping trees. You can see.
Pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip when you're doing this is wedges and a hammer, a couple chains, some lube, some gas. Have some fun, guys. Now we're going to continue down around this bend, down over top this bench system to the bottom. There's another trail down there that we're going to tune up. That leads all the way back around to an old logging road that we're going to convert into a food plot.
Oh, we're going to tune it up.
So they got this continuous loop here where they can go through this bedding area. They were already coming from this direction, but we're just enhancing it a little bit and all that fun stuff. All right, guys, so today I want to just talk to you about travel corridors for deer. There's a lot of different ways to make them, and when you create these things, you don't want to make them very wide. And we have made some in the past, and we made some videos on it years ago, but on this property, we're just now doing it on this property this year. We're having some nice weather out right now. It's about 65, and yesterday me and Chris went through with the chainsaw and we created 3 main travel corridors that connect bedding to feeding. This one right here, as you can see, is a huge ditch crossing, and this was already here. They worked their way out from an old bedding area, and I say old, it's because whenever they logged this property 6, 7, 8 years ago, there was a bunch of drop trees and some brush grew up, and they were bedding in there. So they were using this here to come out into this kill plot that we have, I don't know, probably 50 yards up ahead of me here. And we're getting ready to place a trail camera on this travel corridor today after we enhanced it. And basically we took that trail that was already here and we just made it better. We went through and we cleaned it up. There were some fallen down trees on it where the deer were actually jumping over it. So we just cut a section of that log out, pushed it off to the side. Now they have a more clear path. And not that they weren't using it before, but they were. But when you can enhance it, meaning that you're cleaning that path up to where there's less obstacles for that deer to have to hurdle over, walk around with things like that, where they can just have a clear shot straight through. They don't have to jump over, walk around a log. It makes that trail more enticing for the deer to use. And like I said, this was a huge, trail, and we'll walk our way back here. Earlier this morning, back in the bedding area, I'll walk back in there as well. Yesterday we dropped a bunch of trees. We hinged some trees in there just to kind of make that area a little bit larger with different pockets and different areas within that, to where you can have multiple deer bedding, when previously it was just kind of a few drop trees and it was pretty small. So now we made it bigger. It went from an 1/8 acre to maybe a little bit more than a 1/4 of an acre bedding area. And back behind that, there's another trail that leads into it, which is another bedding area. So they have this whole line of movement from bedding through a travel corridor to bedding to a travel corridor to a kill plot out to a main field. And we're going to be hunting on this travel route this fall. But let's take a walk up this way, and I'll show you where we hinged some trees out to the side, cleared some logs, and made it a little bit easier for the deer to walk on. All right, as you guys can see here, we have a hinge tree off to the side. We have a few back here off to that side, and the main trail coming through. Now this was a existing deer trail. We cut some logs, I showed you in the video. We cut past through there, and this leads up, and it zigzags another probably 100 yards, 120, something like that, up into that bedding area. So when you're doing this, there's 2 ways to do it. One is using these existing trails, and you're just enhancing them, making them more enticing for the deer to use. And then when you're cutting trees to enhance that that travel route, you can drop trees perpendicular to the trail, right? And the other way to do it is to take areas where that deer could skirt out of that trail. Sometimes I'll take a little bit larger tree and kind of drop that to where, you know, parallel with the trail, so they won't exit out of that trail. And you don't want to make that too tight of an area, because then the deer kind of feel confined and they won't use it as much. So you have to have a balance between, you know, cutting the trees perpendicular and cutting them horizontal or parallel with the trail. And cutting them parallel, I wouldn't do it the entire trail. Only in areas where that trail kind of turns and you have an open spot in that corner. You don't want that deer to exit out that way. You want them to continue to follow that trail. And cutting that big tree down angled or parallel with the tree is okay every now and then, but you don't want to do that the entire length of that trail to where the deer don't have an escape route. So that's what we did here. We dropped a tree kind of not 100% parallel with the tree or with the trail, but off to an angle, just to allow the deer to continue to go up this path, because right up above me here, 20 yards, the trail kind of veers left, and we hid some trees over here as well to kind of keep them on that trail. So let's keep moving forward. Okay, now in here, it looks like a bomb went off, right? Well, there was a bunch of pines and some maples, and what we did was we literally just cut the trees, let them fall off to the sides, kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Up here we have some trees that we had hinged back that way, and there's the main trail that we walked in on is right here, comes right alongside me, comes right on through, straight on out into another travel route that I'll show you as we continue through this trail. But these drop trees will not only allow bedding, but it opened up the canopy in here a lot. So it's going to allow that sun to hit the ground, create some browse, some forbs, some, you know, bushes and briars and things to come up in here. But this now is an enhanced bedding area when it was already a bedding area, but now we just made it better. So that trail leads up there about 120 yards or so, goes through, zigzags out into that kill plot that we showed you, and then it comes through here. They have tons of areas for deer to bed through here, with some hinges, some drop trees, some old deadfalls that were in here previously. And this trail, like I said, continues to go out, and we'll follow this around back through the bottom side of this ridge. Now there's a ridge here that kind of falls off a little bit. They also bed on there. There's some drop trees from when they timbered the property. It's pretty thick up in there. You can see where there's a lot of woody browse that has grown up over the years, and it's chewed down to about a foot. You can see it heavily chewed on, but that drops down, and when it drops down, there's a little bench, and on that bench there was a trail that wrapped around that, and yesterday we came through and we enhanced that trail as well. There were some deadfalls. We cut patches through them to allow the deer to maneuver through that bench system, and then it drops off again to a creek, and that creek is actually our property line. So we're probably about 50, 75 yards off that creek, goes up the hill to a bench system, and then up a hill to where we're at now. So let's continue through the trail. So now we're up. We came around that bench system down the bottom. I was describing how from that bedding area we were in, drops down to a bench system. We walked around. I'll show you some footage walking around. Now we're in this area here where you guys can see all these hinge cuts that we dropped perpendicular to the trail. It comes up through here, loops around this way, and it's going to go into a logging road that we're going to convert into a food plot trail. That food plot trail is going to go wrap around this way. It goes out into the bigger fields. So we kind of have this loop through the travel corridor, bedding, travel corridor through a bench system, up through here down through a logging road, which is going to be a food plot trail, out into the main fields. This will allow us to be able to hunt more stands instead of hunting on the field and hunting, you know, putting pressure on the fields, hunting in the back areas. Now we have this whole travel area where we can set stands up. We'll put some trail cameras on it, some cell cams when it gets closer to the season. But right now I just wanted to tour this through with you guys to show you that it's super easy to make these trails. And deer always, no matter where it is, they travel the path of least resistance. So if you can create that path of least resistance, less obstacles, the deer most times will tend to use that trail than something else. Obviously this goes with, you can't do this stuff and pressure the deer. You can't make trails, constantly push them out. They'll just avoid the trails. But if you can make them, hunt them smart, hunt them with the wind, have the wind in your face blowing into an area where you don't predict deer, then they have a tendency to use these trails and makes bow hunting, rifle hunting, muzzleloader hunting, whatever it is, weapon of your choice, makes it a little bit more predictable. Let's continue up and loop back around into the old logging road. Now this road does look like a bomb went off. This logging road leads right out into this main food plot. And we started up there, we ended here, so we basically made a loop through this one side of the property. Again, kill plot, travel corridor, bedding area, ridge system, which is a bedding area, down to the bench system that loops back around through here into the main food source. This logging road, we cut trees down last year. We were going to widen this up a little bit, get some more sunlight in here and plant this, but just a project we didn't get around to, so all the deadfalls are still here. So later into the spring, very early summer, we're gonna get a bulldozer and we're gonna bulldoze all these trees out of here, widen it up a little bit, get some more sun, and we're gonna plant this probably with buckwheat and then till that back in. And then in the fall, we'll probably plant No BS from Domain Outdoors on this logging road. It's meant for, you know, that kind of poor soil, lack of sunlight areas, and that's what this is going to be until we get the lime in there to build that soil. We're obviously going to soil test it and do it right over time with adding lime and stuff to make this a nice food plot trail. So logging road trail, food plot trail, whatever you want to call it, it's a food plot trail. So when you're doing these trails, keep it simple. And when you're walking your property, the easiest way to think of it is think of where you want to walk around your property. What is the easiest way to maneuver around your property, and apply that to it, and the deer will use it, because deer are thinking in the same way. If you have a bowl system, the deer is going to walk around the bowl instead of going down and up through the bowl. That's how they work. That's how they maneuver through your property. They use the terrain to their advantage. So if you have a huge hill system, most likely the deer is not going to travel uphill. They're going to work their way around that hill, whether it's a steady incline, a slow but steady incline, or it's a bench system that wraps around until you get to the top. So when you're making these trails, consider that. Keep it simple. Don't block the trail to where the deer can't escape through there, and build them to where how you would want to walk around the property, if that makes sense. Any questions, guys, comment down below. We're going to continue on throughout the day. It's getting about 1, 2 o'clock now, so we got a few more trail cameras to put out. I'm going to pull some cards from when we were here last time and see if there's any turkeys on there. I know I've been getting some turkeys on the cell cams, so hopefully if there are turkeys on there, some strutters or something, I'll add them to this video. They'll probably be out in that winter wheat field where we have some cameras at. So any questions, guys, post them down below. Until next time, I'll see you.